What's up, heathens? How ya doing? I'm the Godless engineer, and I critically analyze apologists' claims to give you the best arguments and information so that you can stand up and use your voice. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Cynical Christian who says that evolution undermines absolutely everything in reality. Just imagine Darwin with the reality stone and he's made evolution a thing and it's just fucked everything up. That is the view of the Cynical Christian. So if you guys want to know how crazy this guy gets, then please stay tuned. All right, tonight we have the Cynical Christian here, and it's evolution, which I've got my shirt on. By the way, evolution is a fact. And then right here, you can see where to go. By the way, evolution is a fact. If you want to support the channel, or you just want to let everybody know that fucking evolution's a fact,
get the fuck over it.
Then definitely get one of these shirts that don't include any of the curse words, but still sends the same message. I know that that's probably not ideal for some people because you just want to tell people,
hey, it's a fucking fact, motherfucker,
kind of thing. But, you know, I actually had somebody on Instagram one day be like,
isn't the science still out on evolution?
Oh shit, where have you been? Under a goddamn mountain?
I got my whiskey right here. I'm gonna need it.
Okay guys, I've got this list here. I'm gonna make some philosophical arguments against evolution.
There's nothing philosophical about this goddamn video. I'm gonna flat out tell you right now, there is not a goddamn thing that's philosophical about this shit.
Why, Greg Bonson, without God, you cannot know anything. Agreed.
Without God, you cannot know anything.
Agreed.
So for your particular God, well, your particular God's going to be the Christian God, which is the same as the Judaism God. So that reaches back to, what was it, like 6000 BCE or something like that. There have been plenty of other religions that have existed way before yours. Before we even had the concept of religion, we still had the ability to like reason and shit. Like reason, I would say, got us into this shit in the first place because you had fucked up people trying to reason their way around the world. They didn't know what the fuck was going on. So they're like,
well, you know what? I think we should definitely rip out Harry's heart and sacrifice it to that sun god so he'll come back. Look at it. It's disappearing in the middle of the day.
It was an eclipse. It freaked them the fuck out. Lunar eclipses also freaked them the fuck out, and I'm sure they sacrificed a couple Harrys then. Probably a few Karens as well.
Evolution. The coming into the occult doctrine of becoming, things coming into being.
What? What the fuck? Wait a second, I almost let that slip. Evolution is the occult doctrine of things coming into being. What does that even fucking mean? At this point, I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Apparently, this guy thinks that it's a conspiracy. It's an occult doctrine about how things came to be. No, it's a scientific theory about the diversity of life that we have on Earth. There's nothing occult about it.
Without God, without the divine mind, we don't have any trustworthy faculties of the human mind.
Are you stupid or something?
Because if everything is evolved for the sake of survival and procreation, then there is no, by default, higher transcendent truth. There is nothing but the material. And this implies that logic would be a result of evolutionary psychology.
I disagree. I don't think that it's a result of evolutionary psychology. I don't know what you mean by that. I feel like you don't know what that would even mean. Logic is a human description of things that we experience and notice in reality. It is a man-made description. And yeah, man is flawed. Like, we can't inherently or absolutely trust our senses or even our faculties. And that's fine because we have methods and ways to counteract any kind of subjective bias that we might have so that we can get to the objective truth as close as we can get to it, at least.
Which means it's not binding. Like morality, it's not binding. It is a utilitarian man-made construct which could change.
Well, yes, because they are human descriptions of what we experience in reality, they are subject to change because our human experiences may not represent the actual thing that's happening. A good example of this is like lightning. People used to think that the gods threw lightning, like Zeus and all this other shit. Like they thought that the gods were responsible for storms and weather and cancer and dick cancer too, I'm sure. In the Bible, dick cancer is definitely God's shtick. You guys don't remember in the Bible, there's this one point where these people stole the Ark of the Covenant, so God gave them all dick cancer, and I guess clit cancer too.
But if logic and morality can change and they're not binding, then we can't trust we can't trust them to give us any absolute certainty on anything.
I would agree that we can't trust them to give us absolute certainty on anything, mainly because they are human descriptions and therefore are inherently flawed in some way. Because of that, they can change. That's a good thing, though, because there's never going to be a time where we know the absolute truth of reality.
Is that an absolute statement?
I think that there's an overarching absolute truth, but I don't think that we would even know that we have achieved that when we've gotten there.
So only with the certainty of the divine revelation of that divine mind can we know anything.
Stop it. Get some help.
This is why, for this reason, evolution undermines the laws of logic.
What? No, evolution doesn't undermine the laws of logic. It's illogical to say that evolution doesn't happen. Like, that shit just doesn't make sense.
There are no laws of logic. It's not built into the fabric of the universe. It is merely a man-made construct used merely for survival and procreation.
They're not just used for survival and procreation. I would say that you can use the descriptions of logic and apply them to situations for, survival and, I guess, procreation. The laws of logic and all this other stuff they're not designed just so that you can fuck Mary from the bar. That's not the reason that they're designed. There's a bit of a nuance here between the description that we call logic and the absolute truth of reality, or what actually exists in reality. The laws of logic and any other man-made human description, those are our descriptions of what happens in reality. If we don't understand what happens in reality, our descriptions of it can be wrong. We have methods and processes to try to bridge that gap so that we get the best representation of that reality.
Because there's no other transcendent truth. There's nothing higher than the material. And if you are, again, a theistic evolutionist, then it almost implies that you can ascend through a process of evolution into a state of divinity. Right? Because if we came from the swamp to the land creatures, to the chimpanzee family, to the upright man, evolution's not done. After man, you have the Superman or Ubermensch.
I'm fast as fuck, boy. Still fast as fuck, boy. Come get some. I don't think you have any idea how fast I really am. I'm fast as fuck, boy.
Hyperman, demigods, and ye shall be as gods. Oh, gee, where have we heard that? The lie of the serpent.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I agree, Arduin. No amount of booze can fix this kind of fucked up. Evolution does not entail us evolving to Superman divinity status. That's not how evolution works at all. We're never going to be able to do that. Superman is a godlike figure, but also he was crafted to be that way just because of that's how he was crafted, right? That's how he was designed. But that's not what evolution entails. We're always going to be evolving, but all that means is that we're going to continue to adapt to our environment. That's all that really evolution is. It's the adaptation to the environment that you're in. And it's the change in allele frequencies and how those new changes or whatnot allow you to survive better in the environment. It's all about how life changes to survive in the environment. That's what evolution is.
I don't know what in the fuck you just said.
Again, Dr. Monson says it very, very well. In the ancient tradition, the Greek tradition, some of the other traditions before that, there was this belief of this chain of being that ascended upward between the physical, and after you transcend the physical, you go into the ethereal or the spiritual.
No.
But that's not the way it is biblical. There's the spiritual world, and then there is the physical world. There's nothing biblically that, assumes that we can transcend into the spirit world in and of ourselves.
No, don't like that.
So what he's basically saying here is that he's coming from a Christian perspective of reality. And so if it doesn't match what the Bible says, then that means that it's not real. While I disagree with the whole transcending into the spiritual realm or the ether or something like that, because the ether doesn't exist. Spiritual realm, for all intents and purposes, we can't know, and we don't know whether or not it exists. But for the time being, since we don't have any evidence that it does exist, then we don't need to say that it definitely does. Neither of those things are viable explanations at this particular point. But what he's showing here is that he's coming at this from a biblical perspective. If it doesn't match the Bible, then it is wrong. The Bible is the bar for determining what is real and what is not for him. That is scary.
So yeah, there's that chain of being, from the lower animals to humans to the angels to God.
Oh my God! Wow!
But it assumes that it's this ladder-like structure. This is purely philosophical. You can believe it if you want to, but that's not science. And a lot of the evolution, the idea that fish become philosophers, that frogs turn into princes. Given enough time and chance and, evolution. See, frogs become princes. That's literally what happens. And, that's why evolution always starts out with long ago and far away. Because they're getting ready to give you their fairy tale.
I can't think of one evolutionary scientist or one person that accepts evolution for the fact that it is, that would start out talking to somebody about evolution by saying,
A long time ago, and very, very far away, a prince turned into a frog, and then back into a prince, and then fish turned into a philosopher. So one day, a fish got up, walked around, called itself Confucius, and there you go. That's how fish turns into philosophers.
None of what he said is actually evolution or represents evolutionary theory or anything like that. Frogs don't turn into princes. That would violate the law of monophyly, which, in case you guys don't know, the law of monophyly says once an organism is part of a clade, it is always going to be part of that clade. A frog is not part of the clade that Homo sapiens are in. So there's no way that frog can turn into a prince unless you crown a frog a prince.
But evolution, if it really is just a matter of survival.
I don't know if you guys heard, but Casey said some philosophers are fishy, though.
If materialism, if evolution is true, if evolution is true, then it's the whole brain, the human mind are made purely for survival and procreation, and laws of logic are mere conventions that have nothing absolutely binding to make them give you any form of transcendent truth, which has always been the goal of all philosophers, past, present, that they were pursuing some sort of a truth that can be found through philosophy.
I mean, I would agree philosophers do pursue truth, but I mean, science also pursues truth. While they pursue absolute truth, they don't claim to ever attain absolute truth. There's nothing binding? I don't know what you fucking mean by binding. I'm guessing you mean like the laws of logic bind to this reality so that you can't violate them? We've just been able to fine-tune our descriptions of what we perceive as logic. We've been able to fine-tune it to the point where we haven't been able to violate them. All the time in science and philosophy, you have things violate these theories, principles, laws. There are things that we find that violate them, and so then we have to change our descriptions. This has happened all throughout history. I don't know why just now in 2020 or 2019, I can't remember when you fucking made this. I don't know why you think right now you have the absolute truth of reality when obviously the people of your own religion in the past have not had the absolute truth of reality. What makes you think that you just now have the absolute truth? Christians have been fucking wrong in the past. Evolution's one thing that they've been wrong about. Slavery was another thing they were fucking wrong about. To be fair, everybody was wrong about fucking slavery. They used their religion in order to enslave other people, even in the Bible. They've obviously been wrong in the past. They don't have absolute truth whatsoever.
I believe they were onto something, but I believe that truth has been revealed through the Christ. And I love philosophy. I don't think that the Bible teaches that you can't do philosophy at all. I think what the Apostle Paul's trying to wear is beware of vain philosophies that oppose the truth of the Christian God. Any philosophies that is in perpetuation with his divine glory, this is good academia, right?
This is good academia, right? Oh shit, yeah, it's good academia.
This is the way the first university started, by the way, in the United States. Sorry. Anyway.
I think by that particular comment, he just means that it was a Christian university. You know, in the past, we pretty much just had religions that had institutions where they would teach people to read because they wanted people to read their holy book and be a Christian and all this other stuff. It makes total sense that the first university would have been like some kind of Christian institution, but still, the fact is that education is not a Christian invention.
So basically, on that, evolution would undermine the laws of logic as being binding, and you know, evolutionists like to go logic. Oh yes, logic and reason. Wow. The problem is, there is no logic or reason in that situation because your logic is purely relative. There's nothing making it binding. It's meant merely for survival and procreation, not necessarily for transcendent truth at all. And your reason can't be trusted because your mind is basically a cosmic accident that, again, is you know, random particles only for procreation and not survival.
Wow. Have you ever noticed random particles running into each other and like their dicks slamming into the vaginas of the other particles?
See that shit all the time.
I'm gonna make love to you.
Particles.
So, for one thing, he's making a classic apologist mistake here, I guess maybe Christian mistake, is he's mixing up various scientific theories into one sort of mix of shit that he thinks represents science. And that's what he's doing, because he's mixing up the origins of the universe, the origins of life, and then evolution. He's mixing those three things up. Evolution is very specific and does not entail the creation of the universe or formation of life.
So there's no way you can trust your own thoughts. Darwin recognized that. He even wrote about his skepticism and the problems with that. C.S. Lewis mentioned it. I believe G.K. Chesterton mentioned it. And Dr. Alvin Plantinga, one of the most famous philosophers in the world, Christian philosopher, who ascribes to some evolutionary theories I don't agree with, but he created a really good argument called the evolutionary argument against naturalism, which is a very good argument.
Okay. So I don't know about the other guys, but I do know that Darwin did talk about how the human brain evolved, then there's no way that we can trust it as being able to give us absolute truth. Which you would think by the time that Darwin was doing his thing, that would have been pretty fucking obvious. I mean, by the time Darwin was doing his thing in the late 1800s, I mean, you had the Protestant Reformation, where you had Christians killing other Christians, and 100 years before Darwin, you had the American Revolution, where they were separating from England, and that was Christians that were fighting other Christians for their freedom to practice their own particular religion in the way that they want.
And it's the idea is that if the mind evolved itself, that the mind can't trust itself for the same reason that the laws of logic are no longer binding. You undermine the laws of nature. Okay, laws of nature imply a lawgiver. In the Middle Ages, the philosophers of science, hearkening back to the earlier periods of science like Galileo and Newton and Kepler, refer to this as Whitehead's thesis, and that's that the reason that science developed more in the Western hemisphere than it is in the Far Eastern cultures is because of the religious systems. In the East, you have sort of a lot of Taoist, Buddhist, mystical type of stuff that does not necessarily assume a divine lawgiver, whereas in the medieval tradition and the Western European traditions, it does. So the bottom line is the statement is paraphrased, men became scientific in the West. See, technology developed pretty well over in the East. Technology, techne, Greek, things with the hands, gadgets, inventions, that's fine. But the idea of looking for divine truth in nature, laws, natural laws, the laws of nature, only came because men were Christians. Men did believe in a divine lawgiver, and they believed that a divine lawgiver of moral law would probably also had physical laws. So these natural philosophers, if you will, became looking for these natural laws based on their belief in a divine lawgiver who made the moral law, the divine law, the biblical law, and started seeking out natural law, and lo and behold, they found it.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
This is all shit like history right here, because the idea of the laws of nature and the philosophy of these laws of nature reach all the way back to ancient Greece. It doesn't make sense that you're saying that the first people to want to look for these natural laws were only Christians, when obviously prior to that point you had people that were recognizing these natural laws way before Christianity ever was a thought in anybody's head.
But that law of nature as a regularity, a law of nature can only be based in a theistic worldview. It cannot be, it's not sustainable in an evolutionary worldview.
Get out of here.
Outside of a relativity.
Gone. I don't believe it.
So laws of logic, laws of nature, both undermined by hard evolutionary philosophy, psychology.
You don't say.
And I want to say biology, but the problem is biology is a legit form of science.
Really? Get out of here.
And evolution is occult doctrine of becoming.
Gone. I don't believe it.
It's metaphysical speculation. It's basically alchemical dogma.
You don't say. Get out of here.
It's not science, guys.
I told you that bitch crazy.
It is science. There's a scientific theory of evolution, and evolution has so much evidence behind it, scientific evidence,
That it's a fucking fact.
okay? It's a fact of reality that evolution happens, that life changes in response to its environment. You're just simply repeating throughout this entire fucking video.
Evolution undermines reality. Evolution undermines logic, and evolution undermines this and that.
But you're not actually connecting these ideas to any kind of evidence that they're correct. And I'm guessing it's because you have the Bible that is your standard, and so you're judging evolution and other scientific theories by the Bible. For instance, I don't think that you can really sufficiently explain starlight and how far away stars are and shit on a creationist worldview. They have some people that are trying to explain it, but all of their explanations are shit. Just like this guy's argument.
They're fucking shit.
You'd be like, you just don't believe in science. You can't define science when you can show up and take that pet ape. I'll take my pet ape farmer wife and she'll go up and knock God off his throne with her big fat ass. You don't even know my wife. Yeah, thank God.
My guess is that you wouldn't even know science if it smacked you in the face, though.
Okay, literally. Okay, again, evolution also undermines the rationality of the mind, right? Again, evolution, we can't trust our thoughts. Evolution essentially would actually undermine the veritas, the truth, and the reliability of mathematics to study and manipulate nature, okay?
As far as mathematics goes, I mean, math would be a tool that you could use in evolutionary theory to explain certain things. Like, you use math to determine the allele frequencies of a population, and you can use math to determine whether or not a population has enough genetic diversity and genetic drift in order to, survive. So math is a tool that evolution uses in order to explain why certain things happen the way they do in nature.
Because this is a problem. Mathematics are a powerful construct of the human mind. We assign the symbols, but it shows that the human mind is rational, and not only is it rational, it can apply that to a seemingly ordered nature and manipulate it. That is why I create, wait till I get to my argument against evolution from the atomic bomb.
You serious?
Okay, I cannot wait to hear argument against the atomic bomb. But I feel like his paper is pretty much just filled up with
Evolution undermines logic. Evolution undermines this. Evolution undermines mathematics.
and he's just sort of looking at it like,
It totally does. Evolution undermines all this shit. It's right here on my paper.
So basically, evolution would undermine mathematics. How are abstract mathematics necessary for survival, per se? Yeah, they're used for science and invention, I agree. But when Archimedes was sitting there drawing his circles...
What's your question?
What is wrong with your way?
For no other reason, seemingly, that the ancient Greeks liked to practice mathematics as an exercise for the mind, because they enjoyed it. And then the Roman comes over, and Archimedes supposedly says, "Don't interrupt me while I'm drawing my circles," and he becomes angry and kills Archimedes, something the Romans didn't originally want them to do.
This particular story, as dipshitty as he repeats it, is actually true. Archimedes, it was stormed by the Romans, and he didn't notice that the entire city had been stormed. And then a Roman soldier comes into wherever the fuck he was, and he was so focused on his work that, you know, of course, he was a little shitty towards the Roman, and the Roman killed him. He's talking about Archimedes as if he's the archetypal citizen at that time. Like, he was the archetypal Greek or whatever. He was the archetypal person in his area. Like, evolution is describing an entire population. Evolution is not about describing a single person and how certain things help that person, like, survive. It talks about how an organism's population survives because of certain mutations that allow them to survive.
How was Archimedes' abstract mathematics for his own mental exercises?
The abstract mathematics that you're talking about would not be evolution. I don't even know what the fuck that is supposed to mean and what you're trying to say about it, but that is obviously not evolution.
Evolution. Archimedes is once said to have tried to figure out how many grains of sand it would take to fill the universe. How the hell does that perpetuate survival and procreation?
What's wrong with you?
Understanding reality does help us survive. Mathematics is a tool that helps us understand reality, helps us manipulate our environment so we can survive. So yes, mathematics does help us survive, but you're talking about it in a completely different way that is not connected whatsoever with evolution.
I mean, that is so off the cuff that it's freaking cool, right? So Archimedes is sitting here trying to figure out how many grains of sand will it take to fill the universe. Yeah, I'm sure that's got a lot. I'm sure the chicks are just digging on that one.
Yeah, boy, oh, man. Yeah, boy.
You think Archimedes was doing all of these things to get chicks? I really don't see him in a bar talking about, like, mathematical shit and being like,
"Hey girls, y'all want to go and suck on my dickle? I mean, I could figure all this shit out with circles and shit. You want to go and do it?"
That's not what Archimedes was doing. I don't even know why you're suggesting this.
Okay, so basically let me finish up because I got about 45 seconds. It undermines the nature of free will. It undermines reason. It undermines Whitehead's thesis. I'll give you my argument against evolution from the atomic bomb. Evolution essentially, I don't want to say undermines the arts, but in a purely evolutionary framework, there's seemingly no meaning for it. I mean, it's seemingly a pointless endeavor, so it kills the need for the arts.
Whoa, evolution kills the need for the arts?
It's not science. It undermines the whole scientific enterprise for the reasons I've spoken before. And I'll talk about this again under the next video, part 2 of the philosophical reasons I cannot believe in evolution.
Math inherently, in and of itself, doesn't help evolution or doesn't help somebody survive. Like, if you could bottle math up, put it on a table, like, that's not something that helps us survive just being there. But our implementation of math to our understanding of the universe, to being able to shape our environment to meet our needs, that can evolutionarily help us. I think that he's got like a really disjointed idea of what math actually is, because he's not explaining its connection to evolution or how math could be used to help us survive.
Wow, that was some pretty crazy shit there, Cynical Christian. Anyways, if you guys want to support the channel here, you can go to btwevolutionisAfact.com and you too can get yourself a shirt to sport around the fact that evolution is a fact. Go there now, help support the channel, and show your support for evolution. But hey, before you go there, why don't you leave a comment down below letting me know what you think about the Cynical Christian's ideas about evolution. You think they're as crazy as I think they are, or do you think he's making a little bit of sense? Let me know in the comments down below. Hey, while you're down there, why don't you smash that like button and subscribe if you like this kind of content. Don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens.